This Monday Night Football props and NFL Week 1 recap edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Cox. He's one of those guys who will get penetration.
Welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stuck in the money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. What's happening, Kramer? Dog.
Vegas Voice Edition. Coming to you live from our hotel rooms.
Yes, I have a bad case of Vegas voice. I'm also drunk. So was drinking for what? The games kick off at 10 a.m. I had a nice whiskey ginger breakfast at 9:30-ish and drank for about 6-7 hours straight. Took a little break, hydrated. Then I had a couple JMO rocks for that Sunday night game, which was an incredible swipe gambling-wise. We had some man in the box interactions. I mean, this is right. This is what's so crazy about NFL Week 1. There was so much stuff that we were right about coming in preseason. Then there was some stuff we were wrong about. We're going to get to it all. We're going to hit on our Monday night football props. It's easiest to go game by game and kind of bring in the takes there. But we got to talk about a couple big stories from the weekend, starting off with our cab driver to the Circa, Ryan. Ryan and I, we were in the back seat of the cab, bullshitting about games as we often are.
You know, this is a great story because it's going ahead of the Giants.
Yes. No, I mean, we will get to the Giants. There will be some Giants talk. Mr. Jones and me. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you can see this, but I have some notes. We'll be getting to it.
So it's Mark Lewinsky eulogy last year, Daniel Jones eulogy coming up in a second. But and so we're taking the cab to the Circa. Cab driver, your typical cab driver, like foreign guy, not really sure where he's from. Seems like nice enough guy, and then kind of starts driving, I would say, a little all over the place. And we're like, all right. Get off the highway. Circa is right there off the exit.
Well, and real quick, Sean, we've been in Uber rides that we were in a cab in Las Vegas that got into an accident. We've been in Uber rides that have been like life threatening, like on the verge of getting out of the car.
Yes.
It's so life threatening. And I would say this is on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, the guy who got in an accident and just left us there while we were trying to catch our flight, this guy was way worse. The woman who was going 35 on a highway in LA with no traffic, where like people are just slamming on their horns, nothing compared to this unnamed foreign gentleman who, like I said, seemed nice enough. And then, like, as soon as we get off the highway, he starts swerving a bunch, and every turn of the wheel, he just keeps going, wee, wee, wee. And I'm like, is this guy fucking around? And Ryan keeps trying to talk through it and talk about whatever game we're talking about. And I'm laughing at what's going on and trying to keep a straight face because I don't know what this guy's doing. And then he pulls up to the Circa, and there's one of those big metal like stanchions, one of those big metal things that divide that says like, hey, Uber here, cab here. And it's this giant sign, and he keeps pulling up to it, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's either gonna go left or right. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference, left or right, and it's just boom, he hits it. It's like he was trying to nail it. It was a field goal right through the uprights, and the thing shatters. He's dragging the thing, like it sounded like you hit a person. It was hilarious.
So I would say that if you're not familiar with the pull in, the drop off area at the Circa,
Yeah.
There was only one of these. It's like it divides it into 2 lanes basically. And I would say if you put a percentile, like a percentage on it,
I kept thinking,
chances
oh, he's gonna, yeah.
the chances that you were to hit this thing would be like the bonus jackpot in Plinko. It's just it was so unlikely, and also just from like the like the normal
You
organic,
could go
like this is
anywhere.
the way your brain works. Like you generally think there's going to be some, either way. So and I would say this, I kind of like oftentimes when you think back on something disastrous, you see it happening. You realize you saw it happening ahead of time. And as I was watching it, to your point, I thought he was going to go left or right. When he didn't, I was like, oh, this is going to be awkward when he drives over this thing and it like wrecks the bottom of his car. Little did I know how much weight was on the bottom of these and how heavy and reinforced the metal or whatever this thing is made of was. It sounded, to Sean's point, it sounded like we hit something very large. If you've ever run over or hit a deer, it wasn't quite that. It was very close to that. And just like, clearly like headlight glass from his car flies everywhere. The sign flies. And he has this like, it almost reminded me of when Joker said the job is done and now I can go home. It was like, oh no.
Well, and then immediately we're like, all right, we're out of the cab. Thank you. And then the circuit people are coming over like, hey, what's going on? Back in the day, like they would have hood ornaments on the hood. Like he hit it. If you had a hood ornament, he hit it straight on. And it was like he was trying to hit it dead on his hood. All right. Ryan,
you don't forget to finish the story so we get out, and then we're asked by a couple of different people if our necks feel okay. If there's anything further we need to have done, but you could tell they're like
used to people suing. I mean, anytime something happens at a big casino like Circa, people are probably looking to sue, and I just said we'd never do that to Derek, and just walked in and hit the tables. It was hitting the ground. Ryan, do you want to discuss the Giants now? Do we wait until we get to the Giants preview? Feels like you're chomping at the bit.
It's not that interesting. It's not. I mean, we shouldn't bury the lead. It was a great weekend.
It was. We were right about a lot of things. Maybe not right about Will Levis. Although that game, man. All right. We'll save that one. But we were right about a decent amount of shit, which in the National Football League, I'll take it. I know I'm leaving Las Vegas with more money than I came out with, which is always a good way to go. Let's just start about the Thursday night game. I mean, you want to talk about incredible sweat. Chiefs 27, Ravens 20. Just cashed an incredible amount on the props. I mean, Ryan and I, we don't really, when we work up our props, we don't generally talk to each other that much about the process ahead of time, but we both came out of the thing really liking Isaiah Likely. I gave out his alt yards at, I think 25 was plus 180. Kramer gave out Isaiah Likely over 1.5 catches, which was just comical looking back on it. Obviously, him almost getting 2 touchdowns there at the end. I think CJ was on the touchdown ladder. We were both on the Chiefs. Cash that. It was, I mean, it's just like the Chiefs figure out ways to win. Harbaugh, and I don't even know, like Harbaugh and the Ravens, I think we kind of nailed them when we did our preseason show. Again, maybe getting ahead of ourselves, but like I think we both had them around 10-7. The idea was, hey, they're going to be good, maybe not as good as last year, because I think there's some real offensive line issues. And if there was one thing that stood out, I think it was their offensive line, like the interior pressure they got on Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson also, too, like in hindsight, should have been smashing some of those rushing props, because the pressure created by this weaker offensive line is just Lamar's going to scramble. He doesn't give a fuck. He's going to put the ball down. He's going to run around. So those props I'm going to be looking to moving forward. But again, it could have all changed if Isaiah Likely's shoe size was one size shorter. They would have got the touchdown. They would have went for 2. The idea of covering in overtime never would have happened. So very fortunate there with the Chiefs win, Chiefs cover. So I'll take it.
I mean, certainly overtime was good to us this week. I think also I would add that after watching an entire weekend of games, for whatever deficiencies that the Ravens may have against a good Chiefs defense, like that Ravens team looked like one of the 12 best teams in the league very easily in my mind. And you left one other notable thing from the game, or maybe more importantly, the broadcast, how much shine Carson Steele was getting. I mean,
my God,
two separate producers had packages for Carson Steele. They're showing him on the field standing next to Andy Reid like a teacher's pet. I mean, talk about things we were right about, Sean.
Yeah. And I would have loved to see Carson Steele get that 1 yard carry that Pacheco got. Obviously, a Carson Steele likely anytime touchdown would have paid massive. Probably wouldn't be doing the podcast now, so maybe you guys are lucky that didn't hit. But to Kramer's point, pulling back the curtain, the fact that they have those pre-produced segments means they talked to Chiefs coaching staff and said, hey, this guy might get some shine. So are we a little bit early on the Carson Steele stuff? Probably, but the guy was still out there in important moments. And I think he's going to be involved in the offense, and he made the team as an undrafted guy. Like, this kind of really is all we can hope for. It did seem like there was some steam on him from the touchdown stuff. I think him doing so well in preseason probably made his prices a little too high. I'm sure we're going to find some good spots to play Carson Steele throughout the season, but shout out to Carson Steele. The fact he's on the team contributing in a real way, I think is just cool. So the dude loves football. How can you not want that guy on your team?
Yeah. And again, shout out to overtime.
Shout out to overtime. Yes. And we're very fortunate to go into overtime. Down in Brazil, the Eagles 34, Green Bay Packers 29. I'll start by this. Kramer predicted that it would be a cleat length game. I think we were all over this idea that this game was going to be sloppy, and it certainly delivered. Jalen Hurts with a couple very inexcusable turnovers. But that being said, made a couple huge throws, had a massive run when the team needed it. I told you A.J. Brown for Offensive Player of the Year was a fun bet, was a good bet, because this guy is an amazing player. And I think you could make a case he's going to be the best receiver in the NFL this season, and certainly saw it there with the explosive big play. And Saquon Barkley, he had 6 touchdowns with the Giants last season, already put up 3 touchdowns in this game. And the Eagles offensive line, I think for the most part, played pretty well. Again, there was a lot of sloppiness, and maybe some of that was rust. Maybe some of that was on the Eagles side, new offensive coordinator, not playing in the preseason, the sloppy conditions. Like, again, that second Jalen Hurts interception, which you're throwing across your body in a situation where you don't need to be throwing that. Horrible decision-making by Jalen Hurts there. But A.J. Brown did slip, and if you're going to throw a jump ball, throwing it to A.J. Brown, I don't hate. So, yeah, there's a lot to be desired from the Jalen Hurts performance, but I think in general, the defense came up big, especially early with those 2 early turnovers. I mean, Packers could have ran away with this game. Eagles gave them an opportunity to seal this game. They didn't do it. Eagles rallied. They stayed together. They showed some real moxie as a team. And I would say to Jalen Hurts, like, even after the turnovers, still had confidence, still hung in the pocket, still made some big throws. So a lot to build on, a lot to be happy about as an Eagles fan. Get off the schneid after the way they ended last season. That feels good. Getting a win against a team that's going to be in the mix as far as NFC is huge. And then, unfortunately for Jordan Love, looks like he's going to be out probably at least 3 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. And of course, nothing major happened in Brazil except for the sloppiness. So, Ryan, what's your take on the Eagles, Packers? We were both on the Eagles. Bit of a sweat there, but got it done.
Well, I was 100% right about the cleat stuff. And I don't understand how this happens. How do you not test this out? How do you not figure it out ahead of times? But that is something very the playing surface being trash is like a big deal. And I'm a little surprised that there isn't more people connecting the dots between our highest paid quarterback in the National Football League injured.
Well, before Dak.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I had it written. I already wrote it down before this morning. But I mean, it is. I would say my takeaways are this from this game. Both offenses looked very good at times. Both quarterbacks looked like they were making a lot of off balance throws, and oftentimes they didn't need to be off balance. With Jordan Love, he just throws off his back foot all the time. I don't care. Like, he's not good. He's not an elite quarterback. And I think the interceptions, the interception prop, talk about another easy smash for both of these guys. Both of these guys to lead the league in interception, I think, is very much going to be in play if they continue to play like this. My other note here is that the defense, I think the offenses looked better because the defenses were both a little rough. And both were running new schemes, and so that feels a little bit expected. I guess it's slightly surprising that there were so many points scored, 30 points in the second quarter to get it done. But I think maybe it's a combination of good offensive play and bad defensive play. The last thing I'll say is I really am enjoying the internet and doing victory laps after Saquon has one game. I mean, we do have to find this absurdly ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I would say both. I don't think like watching that Packers team, both how they play defense and how Jordan Love looked, and knowing that their backup quarterback is Malik Willis. I don't think this is a playoff team. I think they're going to be it's going to be another story where Jordan Love got hot at the end of the year and they almost made the playoffs. I'm not sure they're going to be a playoff team. And
no, and especially, I mean, yeah, they say 3 to 6 weeks, but it's like, it's not like he's going to be out 3 weeks and then week 4 he's going to be 100%. We're going to see Jordan Love at 75%, Ryan, and you're talking about a guy who's already thrown off his back foot there, maybe made some questionable decision making. You throw an injury in there in the mix, like with his throwing mechanics, I think it could be a real problem. And if Malik Willis is your backup, a guy who wasn't in camp all season, I think they're really in trouble. I think they should be signing a veteran quarterback. I'm sure they're going to do something. But yeah, Saquon looked very good. And I see the Jalen Hurts hate. Keep coming at my boy.
It's
Jalen.
Not hate. It's saying, like, he made plays to win the game, but he also at times looks bad throwing the ball. Just like Jordan Love. And I didn't even mention the inaccuracy. Some of the throws Jordan Love had. I mean, part of the reason the defense for the Eagles was able to bail them out is some of these just open receivers on third down, just horrible throws. The throws we were seeing the first half of last year. So, good luck to our Packer fan friends out there. But unfortunately, it looks like the Eagles might be good again. But I'm standing on the fact that my Vic Fangio take might be right. That defense might just not be good.
Yeah, I disagree. I think,
of course, you do.
Well, they had 2 amazing stops early on in the game, which basically saved the game for them. And the big play, and yeah, they gave up a few big plays, but every one of those big plays, you could look and there was a safety slipping, a guy down. Sorry,
Vegas has you now.
Voice. But Ryan, let's evaluate this defense at home. Week 2, home opener against Kirk Cousins Monday night.
No, I'm not overreacting. I'm just saying that it was
if Kirk Cousins comes into Philly, if Kirk Cousins comes into Philly and picks them apart, I'll say Fangio's system is cooked. But I think the mistakes that were made, CJ missing a tackle, like a lot of the shit that they did wasn't scheme related. And Quinyon Mitchell looked very, very good. So optimistic about him. Jacksonville Jaguars 17, Miami Dolphins 20. I had the Dolphins laying the 3.5. Kramer had the Jags. I didn't feel super strong about this game. I almost kind of defaulted to the Dolphins being the home team, being the team that was going to be in the cooler side of the stadium there. Obviously, the Tyreek Hill story ahead of time was very bizarre and weird that the cops arrested him and were giving him a hard time or detaining him. And then, Miami had a couple massive plays. The Travis Etienne fumble into the end zone obviously was probably the difference in Jags winning outright. Jags defensive line, I thought looked pretty good. Doug P with a couple classic, like, why are you going for it on fourth down there? That backfires. Tua still is kind of Tua-ish. I feel like they didn't get enough support from their running game, but maybe that was something more about the Jags defense. I thought the Jags defense kind of played pretty well there. I mean, the course of events of ETN fumbling, and then I think Tyreek Hill was like a 90-yard or 80-yard bomb after that. That obviously is what kind of swung the game, but Jags with the 3.5 probably felt pretty good for most of the game. But not a particularly pretty game for some of the offensive fantasy people involved.
Yeah, I mean, Tua is crushing the passing yards market that we're going to keep a very close eye on this entire season into one game. He did lead last year, so we not shouldn't be that surprised. He's got the great yak. Yeah, the Tyreek Hill story is crazy. It's what I woke up to. I woke up to the video of it and just being like, "Are you kidding me?" And it got even worse as it went on. After he scored that touchdown, Sean, I don't know if you saw his touchdown celebration. He had Jalen Waddle handcuff him. That was I thought that was a good way to get back at those cops. And even hearing from Calais Campbell talk about how he pulled over to try and help, and then he got arrested. And then Tyreek Hill's like, yeah, I like that some of my teammates tried to help out and they went into jail with, it's like, it feels like one of these, like it will be a strange team bonding situation. And I might even
almost like Justin Herbert getting stuck in an elevator, Ryan.
Yeah, this one. So, are you saying it was planned? And it also had like the strange vibes of Scotty Scheffler because you could see fans walking to the game in the background, and it's like all the videos were from like fans going to the game, and so interesting game here.
Like, that's Tyreek, man.
Trevor Lawrence doing Trevor Lawrence things, looking good for half of a game, and then looking absolute trash for the other. I'll say this: Miami answered one of my questions, which is they were able to get a pass rush. Now, I don't know if I'm willing to say that their offensive line looks like it's going to be healthy, but they were still able to shred this defense, which again, new defensive coordinator, and so we thought the back end might be weak. And just again taking the points because they were another Florida team, but it did look like they wore down in this game, and certainly that had to be due to standing in the heat. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. For me, I'm not really adjusting my takes on either team here. Like it when we read the game, we previewed it, line felt pretty right. Outcome, I'm not shocked that Miami won by 3 and didn't cover it. Felt like kind of to be expected there a lot. But all right, next up we got the Steelers 18, the Atlanta Falcons 10. This was tradition unlike any other. People doubting the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hilarious that Russ gets ruled out. Line does not move because the quarterback doesn't matter. And I wish I kept the guy's Twitter handle, but he goes, "Oh, so you guys make fun of Russell Wilson when he's on the Broncos, but now when he's on the Falcons, it's not a problem." I go, "Yeah." Or sorry, now when he's on the Steelers, it's not a problem. I go, "Yeah." The Steelers winning games and covering is never have been about the quarterback. Like what Steelers team are you watching? It was an incredibly ugly Steelers classic win. And I got a little nervous when TJ Watt clearly, and I wish I could have bet this, and I'm sure if I shopped around more, I would have, but TJ Watt to recover a fumble and or strip sack where he blew by the line. He timed the snap perfectly to the point that they called him offsides, even though he clearly, like in replay, he was not offsides. Strip sack Kirk Cousins. We were all over the idea of just like this Steelers defense is going to fuck up this Falcons team. And they did. And that was really the story of the game. Justin Fields converted a couple third downs when he needed to, ran the ball when he needed to, didn't lose the game. And they win by 8 points and kind of controlled the game for the most part. Like as a Steelers money line, as the Steelers plus 3.5, I was never really that worried about this game. I mean, when TJ Watt recovered the fumble and then they called it back because of this bullshit offsides, I was a little worried. And then I saw him go up and like pull back
Tomlin's earpiece and just like scream something in Tomlin's ear, and Tomlin's ear is like a real psycho, just nodding his head like, yeah. And I said to Ryan and everyone and Bowser and everyone's there, go, he's getting one in the second half. He's getting one in the second half. And of course he did. Like they created a bunch of turnovers. That's what they do. Najee Harris, very physical running. Yeah. Was it great for fantasy? No, but like it was great for winning the game. And Atlanta Falcons looked like a team with a aging old quarterback coming off from injury with a bunch of new toys that they couldn't figure out how to get involved. And we faded Dan Quinn.
No, Raheem Morris, you mean?
Sorry. Same difference.
Yeah, well,
we'll get to Dan Quinn.
And I saw Ben in the chat saying who else has Raheem Morris 105-1, first coach fired. I do have Falcons most losses 150-1, and with the Patriots win and a Falcons loss, think about how that is a
great swing, Ryan.
But again, a lot of the things that we literally, pretty much everything we've said about both of these teams came almost exactly true.
Yeah, I know.
And even to the point where Justin Fields was not asked to make any throws that he was uncomfortable throwing for the most part. He was hitting tight ends on the side, and he was hitting Pickens down the field. And when that wasn't there, guess what Arthur Smith told him to do? Run the damn ball. Cordero Patterson got touches. Jalen Warren got touches. It looks like Najee is the early down back. Jalen Warren's going to be the 2-minute drill third down back. And Cordero Patterson is the guy they bring in when they need a play. Pickens looked good. I was told the Atlanta offensive line was supposed to be good. I was told the Steelers defensive backs were supposed to be bad. Kyle Pitts looked electric, standing in the end zone all alone, catching a touchdown pass.
And Kyle Pitts, one of the best games of his career. He got a touchdown, but his prop was set at 3.5. And if you listen to the prop show, under 3.5 cashes. So even in a great game by Kyle Pitts, still cashing some Kyle Pitts unders.
Drake London didn't do a ton. The Bijan, the only, I guess, takeaway is Bijan had a lot of it looks like he's going to get a lot more work than maybe we had thought.
He led the team in catches. Raymond McLeod was second. I thought Drake London was a first-round pick in fantasy, Ryan. Second-round pick. Where are these fucking eggheads drafting Drake London?
People were laying -130 for the privilege of taking this team to win the division, and we certainly don't want to overreact.
Yeah,
but we told you this coaching staff had a lot of questions. I didn't see offensive play calling that made me feel good. I didn't see defensive play calling that made me feel good. And a lot of very smart people told us this Pittsburgh Steelers team was not going to sniff the playoffs. Nope. And they just took out one of the favorites to win the NFC. Or I don't want to call them the favorites, but one of the favorites by some people.
They were, though. Odds-wise, they were up there. And Ryan, it's a long season. It's NFL Week 1. We shouldn't be, counting our chickens before they hatch. But I mean, Atlanta's next 2 games are on the road in Philly Monday night. You know how Kirk Cousins loves that. And then you come back at home in Kansas City, and for a new team with a lot of stuff moving around, I don't know if that's a great formula for a comeback and recovery. And there is some talent on this roster, obviously bringing in Judon and what they did late in free agency defensively. Maybe some of that starts clicking late, but I don't know. No changes for me as far as these two teams where I have them at.
Eagles laying 5.5. That's
smash.
That's the number next week. Yeah, I mean, I'm not downgrading the Falcons, but it's only because I had them very low. I would imagine the market is going to downgrade the hell out. I mean, they already have the Eagles Falcons number in the offseason.
What,
I believe
3.5?
I think it was 3.5.
Yeah. New York Giants 6, Minnesota Vikings 28. I made the mistake of fading Sam Darnold as a road favorite. That was really my only. I white knuckled it and I took the Giants in part to support my co-hosts, my brother in arms here in the DGen world. Did not have any bets involved on this game because I wanted no part of it. Ryan, I'll let you have the floor here. Where are we at?
We'll start with the good. Dexter Lawrence, good. Deontay Banks didn't have a bad game. The rest of the secondary wasn't very good, and the linebackers were fine. Pass rush, not there outside of Dexter Lawrence. But that's fine. I'm not going to get a new scheme. Again, defenses, they're going to get better. The offensive line played the best game that the Giants offensive line has played in more than a season. In fact, they played a pretty good game overall. And this fucking this piece of shit, who by the way, I'm completely out on Daniel Jones officially.
What?
It wasn't a willing choice, but it turns out he died. It was so bad that after the game, fans left early from the game, but they stayed in the parking lot to heckle Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
I think
wearing in his jersey.
He appeared to be a scared little bitch. And, by the way, Malik Neighbors' prop still went over in this disastrous game. He still went for 66 yards, got the over, ka-ching. It's almost like I kind of feel like you could have played better quarterback. We watch enough football to know where the ball should go. This is unbelievable. And I won't even get into Dable for the play calling, but I will get into they changed so many fucking things from what they had practiced the entire offseason, whether it was on the offensive side or the defensive side. And at this point, deactivate Daniel Jones for the rest of the season. Put his corpse somewhere. Put Tommy DeVito in, and we'll take it from there. So I was actually talk for a second, Sean. Give your take on the game real quick. I need to make a wardrobe change.
All right. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be a huge asshole when Ryan's team loses, but again, my take with the Giants was pretty simple. They're not very good. They're lacking a ton of talent, and they don't have a franchise quarterback. I thought they should have rolled the dice. Try with Michael Penix, because anyone who watches ball could have seen Daniel Jones was not the guy. Joe Shane, Brian Dable, they tried to trade up. When the Hard Knocks cameras caught them joking around about, talking to the Bears and management. Well, it must be nice not have to figure out quarterback like us. The Giants told you they don't like their quarterback. That is a massive red flag for any team. And yeah, Kramer's right. The offensive line didn't look horrible. Defense.
He stepped into sacks. He literally missed wide open guys. I mean, on the play where he threw the interception in the end zone, Darius Slayton is running in the middle of the field, straight down the seam, wide open. He's not covered. I mean, it's just egregious. I think it's funny because a number of the beat reporters were saying it's Bush League for fans to be booing him. Fuck off.
How?
All right. So I thought and by the way, I would, if you want, you didn't ask me the question, but I'll tell you, this was worse than last year.
Really? Why? Because last year, it's like last year to me, losing 40-0 to the Cowboys, there's nothing worse. I guess.
Well,
did you have more expectations this year?
No, because of the way it happened, because of the way that your left tackle goes out right away, and it creates this chain link effect that all of a sudden the offense has to change in a way that they're not able to adjust, and the game gets out of hand. It was bad. This was worse because the thing that has been the Achilles heel of this team for a long time, the offensive line, actually showed up. And in the past, Daniel Jones had looked good. Think about the playoff run. He looked good when he got protection at times. And so he clearly can't. Like he must be a little retarded. Like the way that he threw that interception. Like I've seen him make bad throws before. He looked at the guy for like 2 seconds and then threw the ball at him. Anyway, as far as I can tell, he's dead. And before I get on to my eulogy, because I don't know if he's been killed yet, but hopefully they get him up to the farm and put him down. Got a nice hole dug into a cornfield somewhere by some Italian fellas related to Tommy DeVito.
But
I'm
Ryan,
sure
are you letting the defense off too easy? As Terrell in the chat is pointing out, Terrell Furman, aka Villain Rel. I mean, Sam Darnold was carving them up for a decent portion. 10 for 10, looked very sharp at times.
Anytime a defense changes schemes, there's going to be an adjustment period. The secondary had bad moments. I would say the issue for me was more they just kept spamming the same play, and the Giants were not adjusting. That being said, yeah, the area I would circle where I would be maddest on is the pass rush. There was no edge rush. There was no edge rush at all. And maybe the Vikings do have good tackles, so maybe we'll find out this offensive line's better. But you know the book on Darnold. You got to give him make him uncomfortable, and he'll fuck up. We saw it in this game. I mean, the Giants were able to turn him over, and so yeah, I would say no. I'm not letting the defense off the hook. But I certainly don't think the defense is the thing that I'm going to stare at and say this is a problem. So
shout out to No Lies in the YouTube chat. Just all time great comment with Dan Jones. Flat chested woman should make him sleep on the couch tonight. So
make him sleep in a fucking motel. I mean, clearly it's a confidence thing, whether it's because of the neck injury or because he's a giant private school pussy. Either one works. Anyway, as we carry his limp corpse to the hole in the cornfield, excuse me. And before I do this, I would just there's a member in the audience here. I'm sure he's not watching live, but he'll react to this in the morning. I'd like to apologize. I'm going to reach out to Nagel's Bagels directly and get his address so I can send him maybe a fruit basket and some flowers apologizing. But I'm glad he was able to attend the funeral here of Daniel Jones. So here we go. Daniel Stephen Jones III, fucking psycho, born May 27th, 1997. We were probably crushing beers in high school at that point. We will remember Daniel Jones, a.k.a. Dan Jones, a.k.a. Danny Dimes, a.k.a. Vanilla Vic. We will remember Daniel and how he attended Charlotte Latin School in Charlotte, North Carolina. We will also remember how Daniel originally committed to Princeton. Sean, you probably didn't know that.
What? No, I didn't.
Before later choosing to be a walk-on at Duke, where he excuse me, where he
just break it up.
A little bit, yeah, it's very emotional. But later he chose to be a walk-on at Duke. We will remember how Daniel overcame being a private school pussy at Duke to wow David Gettleman in the first drive of the Senior Bowl practice, where he said that's a franchise quarterback and wrote it down in his binder. And then and then we'll remember how Daniel went on to be the Giants' first pick in the 2019 NFL draft. You know what? Fuck it. I'm not doing this anymore. Daniel Jones can rot in hell. Deactivate him for the rest of the year. Not worth paying a goddamn dime.
Wait. He needs to play 5 games so I can cash my lower on Underdog Fantasy. Ryan, perfect transition. UnderdogFantasy.com. Head over there. Use the promo code SGPN. Off to a nice start on a bunch of the season-long higher and lowers that we got you cooking on. We're going to be giving out some of our favorite Underdog plays for Monday Night Football. Underdog, I mean, again, great catalog of higher and lower, aka fantasy projections, receiving yards, touchdowns, whatever it is. They really have an extensive menu. Super fun to get down on. Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Saturday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, college. Bunch of fun college stuff as well. Love Underdog Fantasy, and you can sign up in a ton of states, including California, Texas, and the greatest state of all, Canada. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. Kramer's getting hydrated.
Hold on,
Saints,
Terrell. I got to reply to Terrell. Terrell, he's leaning into his anger towards the defense.
Yeah,
and again, if the Giants convert on the 3 times they were inside the 10 with touchdowns instead of a couple field goals and an interception. And then there's actually another interception back at the 20. Like this was a game they could have competed in if they didn't have a child playing quarterback. Make a wish.
Okay.
Anyway, move on to a game that matters.
Speaking of Make-A-Wish kid, Bryce Young, only 10 points on the road, division game against the New Orleans Saints, 47-10. I don't know why I didn't lock this up, Ryan. We explained to everyone playing Survivor, you should not be playing the Carolina Panthers in Survivor. You should be playing the Saints and not Survivor. But there was a lot of people out there. I tweeted out that the Sharps were loving the Panthers with the points, thought they were a short play to get into the playoffs. Granted, it's only one game, but usually when you lose by 37 points in a division game, you don't make the playoffs in the NFL. I just never saw it. I mean, the point I hammered home in the preview show was look at what we saw to Bryce Young week 14 in New Orleans. What has changed? And clearly nothing. If anything, New Orleans offense looked a little better. Carolina's defense looked a little worse. This is horrible. This is an unmitigated disaster. Any sort of optimism if you had as a Panthers fan has to be completely gone. I think they're gonna be in the mix with the Giants for the number 1 pick overall, and I think both will be looking to draft a quarterback.
The Saints are exactly who we thought they were going to be. And I think it's worth reminding people why all the smart people who like to play with numbers and models and simulations and play the game of football on a spreadsheet, why all of them are rooting for the Panthers. It's no different than when you root for your team because you're rooting with your heart. The king of the nerds was hired by Carolina. We all said the analytics have shown up to Carolina. They're going to be better. Matt Canales shown up to Carolina. He's going to fix Bryce Young like he's fixed all these other guys. Bryce Young, horrible. And I would say Daniel Jones played horrible, and Bryce Young is somehow worse. In some ways.
Quarterback. I mean, we'll get to Will Levis because he's certainly in the mix, but to me, Bryce Young was the worst because there was no optimism in that game at all. And I don't know where you go from here if you're a Panthers fan. Unfortunately, Ryan, the Closer Out special is going to have us on the Panthers with the points next week, but I don't know if I can do it. This is just bad, man.
And that number is they're 4.5 point home dogs against the Chargers. And it's like, man, like how the Chargers don't have to throw a forward pass to win that game, maybe.
No, and that might be their weakness.
But yeah, I mean, I do think like there is a tremendous amount of smart people who claim they will preach to you how objective they are, and they let some subjective bullshit get into their handicap, and they thought this guy who wrote a book about cheating on his wife and a smart guy with spreadsheets was going to fix everything. And I don't know what you do if you're at least if you're the Panthers, don't you still have Andy Dalton?
No, if they wanted to compete, they should be playing Andy Dalton. But I think if you're the Panthers, you really just have to run this Bryce Young thing into the ground and make sure there's nothing there. Dick Puncher is apoplectic that he has made no progress, Bryce Young, from year 1 to year 2. And he really hasn't. Like, this is the Bryce Young we saw last year. It is, like you think, hey, number 1 pick overall. Okay, rough first year. Maybe there's some signs you're going to turn it around, but we saw none of those.
And I would point out to you, Sean, the reason it's called the closer, you're not supposed to like it.
It is. And I'm not going to like it. Yeah. New England Patriots 16, Cincinnati Bengals 10. Now this, I was jumping the gun saying, we told you don't play Cincinnati in Survivor, Ryan. We're playing 2 Survivor entries in Circa. It never once crossed our minds to play the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, did I put a ton of money on New England money line? No, I thought the number was like a hair short considering the talent, but I mean, we both had New England in the points. This was kind of exactly the game that we've seen from you couldn't have written this script more clearly of like, oh, hey, this is going to be an ugly game. Cincinnati always starts slow. They're going to have some weird turnover stuff. And New England will just kind of hang around and get it done. And now New England, you want to fade in a massive letdown spot. Probably. We'll see once we dive in. But I could see myself fading New England after this win. I mean, Gerard Mayo, they're ready to dump the Gatorade all over him. And Cincinnati, it's the Bengals early. Like they're gonna hit their stride late. If you like the Bengals, you don't like them because how they look in week 1 or week 2. They hit their stride late. And this was just, I'm surprised how many people in the Circa Survivor, Ryan, which is $1,000 entry fee, took the Bengals.
Almost $5 million in entries burned.
That's insane.
Not to mention, we haven't had a chance
probably
to tell
more
people.
than Jacoby Brissett made this year.
We didn't have a chance to tell you either. There were 45 people that didn't make a pick. So it's 45 grand burned.
What's worse?
You didn't probably be picking the Bengals because it really was one of the more obvious. And again, another thing that you saw a lot of these pool predictors, a lot of these, sharp, like here's how you map out the survivor. Just listen to our show. We mapped it out. And I think specifically in these big pools, since he didn't make sense for a number of reasons. They probably are going to be a better team at the end of the year than the beginning of the year. And everyone's going to be on them. You think about it this way. If everyone's on something and you're not, it's like a double win just not being on it. And shout out to the 7 dudes who took the Patriots as a true. Now I'm guessing those people are multi-enter, and I have a feeling they have Cincy. It is kind of an interesting strategy, but it's still absolutely ridiculous that so many people played Cincy. And the other thing I would say is, new offensive coordinator. We know that maybe, whether or not that affects the offense because the head coach is the offensive coordinator, really. But the play calling, another team that just forgot about the run. Someone mentioned it in the chat earlier. I missed it. It scrolled past, but it did seem like, the Bengals could have done better, but same story, right? 1-5 under Zach Taylor in week 1. And it due to injuries, due to not being ready. And quite frankly, it was exactly what we said. They let the Patriots run the ball on them because their defense isn't that good. And the game got short.
Yeah. And we were pounding the table to not take the Cincinnati Bengals in Survivor. So if you listen to the show and you took it, I don't know what to tell you. And Joe Burrow's roots are coming in. He needs to do a die job. Unfortunately, something we were really wrong about, Tennessee Titans and their passing game. Although, all right, so Bears won 24-17. We'll get so Will Levis looked like shit. Certainly not. Well, the chances, the price probably still at 70-1, maybe 75-1, most passing yards. When he actually threw the ball, I thought he hit on a couple deep shots and there was something there. He was way too hesitant to throw the ball, which led to the strip sack that created one of the Chicago Bears touchdown. It also led to an egregious pick 6 where he was going down, getting tackled, chucked the ball up. But in that first half, they were moving the ball. There was a good running game for this Tennessee Titans. I don't think honestly the offensive line played that well. I think it was honestly either the receivers weren't getting open or Will Levis was holding on to the ball too long. I think it was Will Levis holding on to the ball too long. I'll have to dive in. But if you told me, hey, Sean, we're going to give you the Tennessee Titans and 4.5 points and the Chicago Bears aren't going to score an offensive touchdown, I would have bet more money on this. If you told me the Tennessee Titans were getting 4.5 points and they would hold Caleb Williams to less than 100 passing yards, I would have lost all the money I have. So I'm not saying I'm not going to be the guy that says it's a bad beat by any means. Like, certainly the optimism we had with Will Levis was misled. But again, going back to, hey, we thought there was a chance for him to make a jump and it was mispriced in the market. Here are the reasons. And even Jake Browning, like, he had some spike games. So maybe there is some hope down the line for Will Levis and this team to get it together. Like, I don't think they were. It was like real, as dumb as it sounds, it was 3 plays. It was the strip sack for a touchdown, the pick 6 for a touchdown, and getting your punt blocked and returned for a fucking touchdown. Like, it's just a couple really bad plays. Like, if they outgained them by 100 yards. So again, if you had Chicago, God bless you. The criticisms and skepticism we had on Caleb Williams, I think were very true, of him holding on to the ball too long and running around back there. I don't think is going to be sustainable. He didn't look amazing. I think he could still be good as a quarterback, but I think it's a learning process. And disappointed in, like I thought Will Levis could make a nice jump from year 1 to year 2, and certainly did not see that this game.
Well, I actually found reason to be optimistic, but let me start with Caleb Williams. He had 93 yards on 29 attempts. That you don't have to do great math.
The defense,
3 yards.
The defense, like, let's take that aside. Like, our season long stuff for the Titans, I thought their defense played pretty good. And I thought Tony Pollard, who you kept saying I should stop hating because he was a Cowboy, Tajay Spears, I thought played pretty good. Like, the running game, I thought, had some moments. And the defense held the offense to 3 points on the road. Like, that should be commended.
The Tennessee outgained him 244 to 148. So probably a lot of metrics would say that this was an outlier result. Certainly winning and covering is an outlier result, but let's get optimistic real quick about Will Levis, who's he's 200 yards and change behind Tua. That's not a big deal. So in this offense, Joe Burrow in his first game lost a 3-point game to the Chargers at home with this offense, where he threw 36 times, only had 193 yards, and he threw a pick, got sacked 3 times. You know what he did the next 3 games, Sean? Threw for 316 and 3 touchdowns, 312 and 2 touchdowns, and 301 touchdown and a pick. So I think this was just Brian Callahan pulling out the lighter and igniting that candle, and it's about to burn. So baby. I'm not super down on any of it. I will say that my one takeaway was, like, maybe he was holding the ball too long because he was trying to take the deep shots. I would like to see this offense be a little bit more what they had last year, which is take some more of the deep shots, work off the running game. And I thought we saw D-Hop get involved very tiny bit. Chig looked okay.
Touchdown for Chig.
But yeah, I mean, again, you can be happy that Caleb Williams should be 0-1 and Justin Fields should be 1-0, just like I said. So I don't know. This was an outlier result. We'll probably look to fade the Bears next week and take the Titans. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Titans are, this certainly wasn't a great outcome for the Titans, but I think there was enough, and even the 100, to outgain them by 100 yards and not cover by 11.5 points. Look at any sort of gambling shit. That is outlier-y. Not going to say bad beat, but I don't think this is going to be the last we see of our Titans, Ryan. Bills 34, Cards 28. Cards get the cover for us here at 6.5. Hopefully, if you're on the Cards, you had the 6.5, the hook there. I mean, for me, not shocking game, really. Like, Josh Allen scrambling around, making some big positive plays, making some big negative plays. Kyler, scampering around, getting the ball downfield at times. James Conner being in the mix. Mac Hollins getting an anytime touchdown. Like, I wish I would have studied this game and put a same game parlay in, because I feel like I could have had a decent, hey, Mac Hollins anytime touchdown, Josh Allen to fumble, Kyler to run for 50 yards, Cardinals to get the cover and not outright win, would have paid really well, and probably stuff that we both kind of were on. Probably fortunate to get the cover there with the Arizona kickoff return for a touchdown. Shout out to the new kickoff rule. That was fun, and a fun environment in the book. But again, this is Bills play with their food, especially early, and they let this Cardinals team hang around. I'm not surprised Cardinals got the cover.
I mean, classic backdoor Kyler, kind of what we talked about, right? If the Cardinals fell behind, they're always going to be a good chase team. What was a little surprising is how they came out and punched the Bills in the mouth a little bit, and then Josh just took over. But you got to look at it though. Josh was still doing Josh things. Tight ends not nearly as involved as the receivers. Spread it around 10. He completed passes to 10 people. Sean Keon Coleman led the target share, and I think once they started pounding the rock, which is I think what they want to be, they look pretty good, and they look like they're going to be a tough team to beat. And if Josh can prevent, like he got lucky with a couple of those throws, he's still throwing it across the field. He's still making, when he dove to the end zone with the ball out in the air, we've seen that same play happen where the ball gets knocked out of his hands. And so,
yeah,
this was very.
This game was all shit we saw before, right?
Yeah, but a little bit surprised Kyler didn't get home with his passing and rushing yards. But it does seem like this offense is going to move the ball. But it wasn't Trey McBride. Michael Wilson got involved with the early touchdown. Dortch, who had a great preseason. Harrison had some bad drops, but I think this Cardinals team might be exactly what they thought they were going to be, and I see no reason why they're not going to be competitive in a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, tough spot, open it up, non-conference road, but I'm not totally out on them. Houston Texans 29, Indianapolis Colts 27. I feel like we mentioned this on the VSiN show where I kept going, Kramer, the Colts are not going to win. You're like, no. And I'm like, you're getting too cute. They're not going to win. Texans are going to win the game. And I go, well, there's a world where they win and don't cover. That's exactly what happened. Houston won 29-27, didn't cover the 2.5. It certainly was in big part because they got a punt block for a touchdown. I don't know if they scored on that play or right after it. Again, I'm drunk, but I would say I still had a decent week considering I was on the wrong side of 2 block punts for touchdowns. I guess I did get the kick return touchdown with the Cardinals. Shout out to that, but I didn't have a ton of money on that. So this also was, to me, fairly kind of what I thought. Like Houston made some big plays when they had to. CJ Stroud's still a winner. AR-15 has a cannon, very interesting fantasy wise, hit a crazy deep shot. I'm probably going to go back and rewatch some of this. I don't know where I'm at with some of the Shane Steichen play calling, but this 29-27, like none of this is shocking. Congrats to you on the cover, Ryan. But Houston got the win. Tough road spot division wise. And yeah, I thought Houston overall coming into the season, I had them slightly better than the Colts. Not super down on either one of these teams. And this Texans defense, I think, is going to be pretty good. I think the Colts offense did some nice stuff. Jonathan Taylor, I'm going to double check the box score. I feel like he didn't have a good game eye test, but what do you like? To me, there's no big changes on either of these teams as well.
Yeah, that throw to Alec Pierce you were mentioning, where he was kind of like off his back foot, almost being
that was a cannon. I mean, he only attempted. Yeah, he had 212 passing yards and 9 completions. Anthony Richardson. He was also the leading rusher, 6 for 56 and a touchdown.
That throw was the 3rd longest air yards throw in the past decade. I mean, that's why people get excited. I think this game kind of was exactly what we saw this 2 years ago, where they played to a tie. I think these teams just kind of bang into each other. I thought at times CJ Stroud had some moments where he didn't look great, but for the most part, he looked pretty good. Joe Mixon looked very good. That's the big takeaway here.
30 for 159.
If they're going to be pounding the rock like that, and the defense is going to be able, although also it is interesting to kind of have how has your opinion changed on the defense? Because I thought, if you thought they were going to be a good defense, maybe they would show up a little bit more against a guy like Anthony Richardson, because I do
that's fair, but also Anthony Richardson, the plays he made, it was like that massive bomb, couple big runs, but he completed 9 passes. So I don't know, like some of that's kind of his game where it's going to be boom bust. I don't know. I'm interested to see them against other offenses.
Yeah, but like we discussed, the Colts didn't need to win to cover, so there we go.
Great teams, good teams win, great teams cover. Which the Las Vegas Raiders did neither. They only had 10 points in Los Angeles against my Los Angeles Chargers. Me and AKA Justin Decker. Immediately after the game, Decker texted me, Chargers super fan. He goes, guess how excited I am about this game from 0 to 10. I go 10. He goes, hell yeah. And then he's like mad LeConkey. He seemed like he was pretty drunk, pretty excited. Here's what I'll say. The reason why I like the Chargers here in this spot was because I thought they were going to be the better coach team. I thought they were in this game. I thought what epitomizes why I don't like Antonio Pierce as a head coach is 4th and 1 on the opponent's 40 in a spot where it's like, hey, if you're gonna say, hey, we're the Raider way, we're these Pirates, cue the NWA music, give me the Ice Cube Raiders hat. Like we're South Central, we're LA, we're fucking hard asses. 4th and 1, you're punting. Like, where's that Raider attitude? And I would say the optimism you had on the Raiders, Ryan, with the defense, I think we really saw, because Max Crosby, some of these other guys on the defensive side, I thought played, for the most part, a pretty good game. It was really the offense's inability to move the ball, to put up points. Gardner Minshew not seeing wide open Devontae Adams, Zamir White fumbling, that kind of stuff, which I do think is coaching. Some of it's probably talent, I think, is what's going to hinder the ceiling of this team. So Chargers got the win, got the cover. I think this is the Chargers we're going to see a lot of, where not super pretty offensively. Like, they still have a ton of questions at the receiver position, what they're going to do there. Dobbins had some moments, obviously running the ball. Shout out to the Laddie Daddy, gave out the Dobbins ladder. That looked pretty good. But Ryan, you like the Raiders. Do you still like the Raiders after week 1?
It was a 3-0 turnover game. That was the difference in the game. They both had about 300 yards. I thought Minshew, it's fair to say that Minshew missed some guys, but I also thought he looked fine. I thought he looked good at times. He's actually number 3 on the passing yards leader list right now. It was a little weird why they weren't playing Zamir White for a bit there, and then he'd come in and make some really nice runs, and then the fumble was tough. So, if you scrub the turnovers, which sure, it's easy to say that, but I think this is a pretty tight game, and felt pretty good about having the points for most of this game, and then it kind of fell out of hand at the end there. I would say I'm upgrading the Chargers more than I'm downgrading the Raiders. The decision making was probably not optimal, but I think Gardner Minshew will be fine. And I thought they at times it was like the offense looked pretty solid, and so upgrade the Chargers. I think they probably and I maybe slight downgrade to the Raiders, but I think again I question the play calling. I think that they kind of had some peculiar drives, and maybe that's Luke Getsy. Maybe I was too high on him. But yeah, I think you gotta upgrade the Chargers. And if you haven't watched the Jim Harbaugh getting the game ball after the game,
oh my God. You want to talk about Make a Wish? She's just like, my God, this has never happened to me. I get my own game ball.
He legit is like authentically excited, as if he was like a 5-year-old kid or a baby leaving the womb, as he described at training camp.
And I'll say this, that 300-pound defensive lineman, giant ginger, that the Chargers turned into a fullback, that motherfucker is scoring a touchdown. We just got to figure out what game it is. It might be a first touchdown. And the Chargers are going to win ugly. The fact that the Chargers won the turnover battle, I think a lot of, like some of it's luck. There's certainly luck in turnover and like whether you recover the fumble. But Ryan, 100%, if this was Brandon Staley, they lose this game. Like the closing out, having a lead, not turning the ball over, not making horrible mistakes. That kind of shit is coaching. So I do think it makes a big difference. And not to rub salt in the wounds of the Michigan crowd, but I think Jim Harbaugh is a pretty good coach. Now goes to 5-0 opening day with a pretty decent point differential there. Speaking of difference in points, Bucks 37, Washington Commanders 20, Bucks cruise. there was maybe a little thing in the back of my head where, oh, Sean, maybe you're getting a little cute with the old Baker Mayfield in Survivor. Was never a question. And I tried to get a photo. Again, I was heavily intoxicated all day, but they did show the thermometer. So 2 for 2 on thermometer games. I assume they did on the Jags game at some point. Honestly, if they weren't distracted with the Tyreek arrest, there would have been way more thermometer shots. But there was definitely a thermometer shot in this Washington game. We told you Jaden Daniels was going to run for a bunch of garbage yards. We told you Mike Evans was going to eat. Dick Puncher tweeted it out. He was on Mike Evans anytime, and Mike Evans 2 touchdowns. I'm staring at a Mike Evans 2 touchdown ticket right next to me. Jalen McMillan got on the board with a touchdown. Probably should have had another one. Like, he had a deep shot that he was open and they called and Washington did a really bad PI on him. And then another one where he was wide open and Baker just overthrew him by a little bit. Like, he could have gotten a second touchdown, I think, fairly easily. Rashad White looked good. Bucky Irving looked good. I mean, everything on the Bucs looked pretty good. And honestly, like, even at halftime, it's like, man, they should have been up more. This Washington defense, I think, is horrible. That's my biggest takeaway. Like, I didn't have Washington very high. Any sort of optimism of Jaden Daniels maybe carrying this team, I think, is going to be a lot to ask considering how bad the defense is. And yeah, I'm not going to get too excited with Tampa Bay because I do think I could see them hitting a couple different walls here. But great win, great cover. And I should have had him as a lock, but we had him in the Survivor, which, getting through with the Bucs and the Saints, considering how many people took the Bengals, feels pretty good here, Ryan. What's your take?
Well, I would caution people because I do think Jaden Daniels looked okay, but he did have 101 of his passing yards went to the running backs and another 28 went to Zach Ertz. And so, the running game looks like it's going to be there. Certainly rushing totals, we're going to smash those. I would caution, like you said, the Baker and the Tampa offense love, because this Washington secondary performed the worst in the league. Certainly it doesn't help when you get blown out like this, but they looked pretty bad. But we were really right about the Bucs in terms of becoming more of a team that was going to throw the ball downfield and not be a run pass team like they were last year with Matt Canales, who, by the way, that style of offense is working excellently with Carolina. So yeah, I mean, Tampa looks great. I mean, imagine you were listening to your favorite sports gambling podcast this offseason, and they were suggesting that a great way to fade the Falcons would be to take both the Saints and the Bucs and, save yourself the trouble. Holy crap, does that look great right now? On the other side, I mean, for Washington, next week's game against the Giants certainly will be an interesting litmus test for them, but I didn't think any part of the team, any part of the offense looked bad. I mean, you're going against Todd Bowles. I thought, the rushing was probably a product of him getting out of getting out and scrambling to avoid the rush, and I think the passing was a lot of like dink and dunk stuff. So which is, by the way, what Cliff Kingsbury does. So we'll see how defenses adjust to him. And we'll see how Jaden Daniels progresses. But I mean, if I was being completely objective, I think I'd have to put him number 1 for rookie quarterbacks, and it's probably not even that close.
Seattle 26, Denver Broncos 20. This, unfortunately for our sheet, was great as a loss. It was a push in the Circa Million, and shout out to us, Ryan, 3-1-1 in our Circa Millions entry. Which is not too shabby to start the NFL season.
Loss was the Titans. Come on.
Yeah, that was obviously the loss there. I was optimistic on the Broncos. I think maybe got ahead of myself, at least early on. Probably put the blinders on with Bo Nix going on the road, non-conference road spot. But he looked pretty good in the first half there, had some moments. I said he was going to be running the ball, did get that anytime touchdown. That was 5-1, 6-1. Hopefully you played that. That was a sweet cash. McLaughlin looked pretty good there for the Broncos. I mean, my anti-Geno take, I still think is pretty good. I think this Broncos defense, I think, is pretty solid. I think the Broncos are going to figure it out and be like, again, what I had them at 9-8. I still think they could be a 9-8 team. We'll see with Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix, there was some mechanic stuff. There was obviously two picks, not great decisions on some of those, but you look at the game plan, like they had him throwing the ball way too much. And Mike McDonald, I think, did a very good job with Seattle's defense. I maybe underrated Seattle's defense slightly because of what they're doing scheme wise, but I stand by Geno not looking very good. I know he had a 35-yard rushing touchdown. He also got safetied twice. One was an offensive holding, the other was a handoff. But I don't know, man. That Seattle offense, I think, is going to run into some problems. So I feel pretty good on my fade of the Seahawks. Still optimistic, cautiously about the Broncos here. Would have liked to get this backdoor cover if they could have figured it out there a little bit. I don't know. I mean, a little surprised they didn't have a couple more plays downfield for Bo Nix. But again, it is a rookie quarterback making his first road start. So maybe I got ahead of myself there.
I mean, 26 completions on 42 attempts. He had a similar yards per attempt as Caleb Williams, just north of 3 yards. Not very good. The final interception, if you were watching the broadcast live, you just heard the oh no, don't
the guy says oh no like 2 seconds before he throws the ball. It was hilarious.
And yeah, on the other side, you see Tyler Lockett. They were being coy with him, saying he was banged up all preseason, comes out, leads them with 6 for 77. But what stood out to me is how once they figured out the run game was the way to go after this Broncos defense, it became a problem. And it just makes me think for next week when the Steelers come to town, how is this going to work out? Because it does strike me as a bad matchup. Currently, the Broncos are 2.5 point home dogs. And I know you love the early elevation angles, but for me, the difference in this game was when they started getting Kenneth Walker going, even a little Charbonnet there with the little catch down the stretch. That was the difference because Seattle's offense didn't look great. The one piece of that offense that looked great, other than Geno somehow scrambling for a 30-yard touchdown, was Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker looked really, really good, and even like I said, Charbonnet looks good. So if this running game is gonna churn it out, I certainly would be interested. I don't have a take on Seattle. I don't think they were very good here. I think they just got Bo Nix in his first road game, and I think you're slightly wearing rosy glasses with Bo Nix. I thought he made some nice plays, but he also made some just really, really bad throws.
No, that's fair. And he certainly had some moments where he struggled. I guess I was being I think I was being too optimistic coming into this game. I still think he can figure it out and have a decent rookie season and put them in some spots to still be like an 8-9, 9-8 team, maybe sneak into the playoffs here. So we'll see.
I just don't get how, and I understand that Seattle has a defensive front that is somewhat can be difficult to run against. Yeah. You can't have Bo Nix throw the ball 42 times. You have you got two safeties. When's the last time a team had 2 safeties and lost the game and didn't cover a 5.5 point spread? It just seems like this was a little bit of an outlier performance, but I'll put it on Peyton a little bit. You can't have this guy throw the ball 42 times.
No, and after we did the show, after I was kind of locked into my plays, looking at seeing how bad Sean Payton had been, I definitely ignored his record in the first 2 games of Saints seasons and both straight up and ATS. And in hindsight, I wish I would have looked into that more because maybe that would have got me off some of the Broncos optimism. But again, if you got it at 6.5, you got that backdoor cover. So this is a weird game for sure.
Any chance that Pittsburgh puts up 70 on them next week? Oh, that's what happened week 2 last year, right?
No, that was Miami.
Was that week 1? No, I know. Was that week 1 or week 2? I thought it was week 2. No, I was making a week 2 parallel.
That's a good question.
Look it up. Anyway,
I feel like it was a little later. But the offense had some really bad, their defense had some really bad games last year, and certainly
well, that 70-point game it was September 24th. It was week 2.
Week 3.
Week 3.
Yeah. So they lost 17-16 against the Raiders at home. Game they should have won. Then they lost that that Commanders game where they were up big. This is really pissing me off going back and looking at this Broncos team because I was on the wrong side of both these. Where the Broncos were up big, Commanders came back, and then Russ Wilson hit the Hail Mary but didn't convert the 2-point to send it to overtime. And then week 3 they got destroyed by the Dolphins,
which probably skewed their defensive metrics a little bit. But
I think their defense is capable. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Nothing to say about this game. Dallas 33, Cleveland 17. I mean, I really have nothing to say. You can't evaluate this Cleveland team if they don't have a quarterback. And I'll give the Giants that similar pass. You need competent level quarterback play to fairly evaluate a team. And this Cleveland Browns team does not have it. One of the worst transactions in the NFL. I think this will go down in NFL history, giving Deshaun Watson all that guaranteed money. Give me another transaction. And they gave up money. Like, it's not like he was in free agency and they signed him for $250 million guaranteed. They traded assets for the opportunity to sign Deshaun Watson for $250 million guaranteed. He looks washed in a way I've never seen before because it's Ryan. I think it's a lot mental. Like, you look at his body language, his eyes, his interactions, the fact that he's basically a cuckold to Jameis when it comes to pregame speeches. I think it's all mental, or at least 90% of it, and confidence stuff. Whatever his physical ailments aside, I'm sure he's sore and could have some tension worked out of him, but it just starts and ends with Jameis. I don't even know what to say about the defense, because I think at a point when your offense is this bad, when Deshaun Watson's on the other side, and it's not crazy to go, hey, just give this team Joe Flacco. We saw what they did with an average fucking quarterback in Joe Flacco. I feel bad for Browns fans that they have to sit this out. And Stefanski, you can just see the gray hairs coming through his beard as he's thinking, do I bring out Jameson, or do I bring out Jameson Winston? Jameson on the rocks Winston for the second half? That's what he was thinking about. That's what you can say anything else you want about this game. It doesn't matter. All it's on is Deshaun Watson.
They didn't have their tackles, which is fair to bring up.
Come on. No, they moved Conklin to left tackle. They had one of their tackles.
Pretty sure Willis and Conklin both didn't play. And so I do think that, if any team was playing without their 2 tackles, it would be bad. But let's break down this masterful performance by Deshaun Watson. When blitz, Sean, he was 2 of 9 for 13 yards and took 3 sacks.
And you are correct. Conklin was inactive.
When he was under pressure, he was 3 of 12 for 10 yards. On passes, on passes 20 or more yards downfield, he was 0 of 4. On passes 15 or more yards downfield, he was 0 of 10. And most of those were flying into the stands. They were so inaccurate. You mentioned the trade. It will go down in history as the worst trade ever, worst deal ever, whatever you want to say. Here's what the deal was, Sean, if you don't remember. It was a 2022 first rounder, which was the 13th pick, a 2022 fourth rounder, a 2023 first rounder, a 2023 third rounder, a 2024 first rounder, and a 2024 first round pick, which allowed the Texans, in return for Deshaun Watson, to get Kenyon Green, John Mechie III, Christian Harris, Thomas Booker, Damian Pierce, Will Anderson Jr., Kalen Bullock, Tank Dell, Kamari Lassiter, and Cade Stover. It's a full roster.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, he doesn't want to play football anymore. He wants to go to the rub and tug. He got all his money. I will say we did look into this in the preseason, and he does have, or no, we looked at this before Russell was cut by the Broncos, and Russ did have more dead money on his deal than Deshaun, for whatever that's worth. So yeah, and I mentioned this on the show. Why is Cleveland doing a new naming rights for the stadium? Well, maybe it's to get the money to get old Deshaun out of there. Yeah, how do you not put Jameson? What guy on the team is fighting for Deshaun Watson at this point? If he was, because the one thing I know Jameis can do is throw a deep ball. I know Jameis is going to throw the deep ball. Deshaun Watson can't even do that anymore. He just looks like completely washed.
It's all this dink and dunk. Like his average, I think my brother sent me this. His yards per attempt was 3 yards. 3.
Do you remember that playoff game where he was electric? Like what happened? Something happened.
2019, he was good.
It is where it's. I mentioned the confidence with Daniel Jones. Clearly, confidence an issue with Bryce Young, but perhaps Deshaun Watson is a sensitive athlete, and him getting dragged through the coals because he liked the massage
100%
broke him.
100%. I mean, my handicap of Deshaun Watson is it's mental, and it's not getting any better. All right, Ryan, we got some Monday night props. Before we do, let's recap real quick. Sunday night football. Detroit Lions 26, Rams 20. We were both on the Rams. -3.5. Never in doubt. Oh, but it was nice back and forth affair here.
We were on the Lions.
Yeah. What did I say?
Oh, you said we were on the Rams.
No, we were on the Lions, laying 3.5. I actually waited to bet it. It was kind of got sidetracked. Bet it late. Got a really bad number, 5.5. CJ was on the Rams. He liked the Rams. Adam 5.5, and just I'm not gonna rub salt in the wounds, but CJ just yelling, "Oh shit, it's coming!" I mean, this to me, the game was way more interesting. ATS. Well, the game was pretty good overall. Like nice back and forth affair. Jared Goff with a couple bad throws. But, Jameson Williams had some nice runs there. Cooper Kupp, who we were very high on fantasy prop stuff coming into the season, had a really nice game. Puka Nacua re-aggravated whatever injury is going on, it seemed like. Stafford had some nice plays. Couple, also had a couple bad throws. I mean, Stafford and Goff kind of have some similarities. In hindsight, like looking at their games, it's kind of funny the traits that they share here. But yeah, I thought massive win, obviously, for the Lions. I think huge mistake by Sean McVay not burning some of those timeouts late in the game when Detroit was driving. Where like, hey, dude, call some timeouts. They're probably going to attempt a field goal at the very least. Whatever scenario, you're going to need more time. Burn your timeouts. He didn't. They didn't get a chance to really take a shot there at the field goal to avoid overtime. They got it to overtime, which some were pretty shocked by, that they were able to send the game into overtime. I saw at some point no overtime was like minus 25,000 or something crazy like that. And it was just it's just a fun back and forth affair. And then obviously, as a guy who had Detroit laying the number, them getting hit to overtime, when they won the coin toss, CJ was like, it's cooked. And that Rams team looked gassed in overtime. And I don't know why they weren't burning some of their timeouts earlier. But again, I don't think I have crazy adjustments on either team here. Like I thought there was certainly a lot of positive for the Rams. I thought the defense without Donald wasn't a complete disaster. I thought they were able to pressure Goff at times. I think they're a team that will probably peak late like they have previously. And, Lions got the win at home, had some moments where they were a little off, but overall I felt like, got it done. I don't know. Where were you at with this game?
I mean, certainly a very nice cover, as I mentioned earlier.
Oh,
Overtime was nice to us. I did enjoy the CJ, the man in the box, was just screaming at the entire sports book about how they're all very much Detroit money was in the book, and
yes.
CJ was holding a +5.5 ticket, which the way that game ended, and to somehow lose that bet, he was serenading the sports book, calling everyone a mop. I don't know. I mean, I thought that in some ways McVay made some bad decisions, but I also thought Dan Campbell, we kind of have given Dan Campbell praise over the last couple of years for being aggressive. He was very conservative down the stretch in that game, choosing to punt a couple times, which all right, that's it. That's not the same that we saw last year. I also thought, like so many of these teams, why did they stop running David Montgomery? I mean, we saw it in overtime. They literally just ran David Montgomery down their face, and I think he had like 53 yards in the third quarter, and he didn't receive a carry for a while. These offensive coordinators get too cute. I thought the Lions got too cute in this one. I thought the Lions got too cute, and they almost lost the game to a team that I don't think is very good. And I think I don't think I'm doing anything to upgrade this Rams team. I think if Puka's hurt for extended time, that's not very good. And like we mentioned on the show, the way that the Rams would keep this close is that they play some bully ball, run the ball, and be able to maybe shorten the game. Well, they did, and the Detroit Lions played into their hands, kind of getting away from the run themselves. And so feel fortunate to get out of this one with a win, a cover, all that good stuff with all my division or my season-long Detroit love and all those futures. But I would say I know a lot of people are probably upgrading the Rams. I would say I am not. And Detroit,
I guess
good win. You got out of there with the win.
Yeah, I was a little higher probably than you on the Rams, so I'm kind of keeping them where I have them. I think they're going to peak late, because I don't know. We'll see with Stafford as well, but I thought the defense played better than there was some concerns, and I was on the Lions. Easy, obviously, Lions super fan. He was pointing out his Jameson Williams takes. That seems to be off to a good start. Amon-Ra had a pretty quiet game.
JMO, most receiving yards on Sunday. So
baby.
I know I saw some people cashing 100-to-1s on that. So congratulations.
All right, Ryan, let's cash some props. Monday Night Props brought to you by Rhythm. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. Sign up over there. Get your 7-day free trial today. And again, love Rhythm. Bunch of great winners over the weekend. And they got you set up for college football, for NFL. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. Ryan, like I said, I was drinking all day. I was pretty lazy when it came to preparing for this podcast, because I was like, hey, I just watch football all day. I don't need to prepare. And then I was like, oh, shit, we also give out Monday Night Props. I'm like, I don't have the time to go in and crunch the numbers. This is like, guy you kind of you may cheat off his paper in old college. You get some nerd to write your computer, get some nerd to write you a term paper so you can drink all day and watch football. That's what Rhythm is. Rhythm is the nerd that helps you do all that schoolwork. That honestly, I just open up the Rhythm app, I look at the props, and then I start matching the props that I like from gut instinct, for my numbers, for my system, matching up with the Rhythm data. And that is a winning formula. Kramer, my first prop, I think you're going to get a heavy dose of this gentleman early and often. And I'm surprised you can get plus money on his touchdown price. Breece Hall, anytime touchdown. It's chalky, but at plus 130, this feels pretty damn good. I like the offensive line matchup for this Jets team. No Eric Armstead. There's just a lot of like, this 49ers team being a little out of sync. And I think if the Jets come in here, pound the rock a little bit to set up some play action stuff, I just think Breece Hall is going to be involved, not only in the passing game, the receiving game. I mean, just look at his total yardage props. It seems like a great price here at plus 130. I think he's going to get a ton of volume. So yeah, Breece Hall, anytime touchdown.
I like it. I'll stay on Breece Hall. 26.5 receiving yards is the receiving total. We're going to go over Sean, we saw it a little bit. I thought about going combo yards here and throwing in the rush, but when I dug into San Francisco's defense, especially last year against the running backs, they were not good defending the running back through the air. Brees Hall himself averaged 36.5 receiving yards last year. Sure, you could argue, maybe it was because the quarterbacks were a lot worse. Yeah, but this guy is going to be a huge part of the offense, and I think you're crazy to think that he could potentially be the second target after Garrett Wilson in my mind. And when you look at what San Francisco did, or what they accomplished on the defensive side of the ball, stopping running backs, they gave up 625 receiving yards to the running back through the air last year, which was sixth worst in the NFL. That shocked me. So when I saw that convergence, it seemed easy. 26.5 receiving yards over for Brees Hall. A double Brees Hall day, huh?
No, and I like the receiving yards. I like the rushing yards. I didn't really kind of know what I liked best. The fact that I was getting plus odds on the anytime kind of sucked me into that. So this one, and maybe I'm stealing this from you, Ryan, but the Rhythm app liked it. I like it. Brock Purdy over 6.5 rushing yards.
You little bitch.
Rhythm was all over it. And I think this Jets D line is going to be able to pressure Brock Purdy. Pressure breaks pipes, as you once told me, Ryan. And San Francisco could have some broken pipes here on the sideline. The AI model likes it. And again, small sample size with preseason, but I think Purdy is quietly a guy who doesn't mind scrambling a little bit. 6.5 is very doable. All you need is one run. So give me over 6.5 Purdy rushing yards.
So last year, when we saw the San Francisco 49ers get to the playoffs and face some good teams that were maybe getting after Purdy, against the Packers, his total was 5.5. He got 14 yards. Against the Lions, his total was 5.5. He got 48 yards. So what do? They adjust it up for the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, good pass rush again, to 15.5 yards. So you're telling me that the offensive line takes a major step back. Brandon Ayuk's going to be on some sort of pitch count. Christian McCaffrey coming off a calf injury. Maybe you don't want to overwork him. And I think we both think that this could be a little bit of a game where he's going to have to drop back and pass a little bit more than when they just pound the rock all game. So seeing the market depress all the way back down to where it was last year. And Sean, if you remember, his mid-season rushing prop totals were generally in the 10.5 range. And so
yeah,
I think this is just a mistake. I think the offensive line looked bad in that preseason game. I think we're going to get this on one run, and it's going to be like the likely prop where it's like, dude, man, they just don't watch the games.
No, I'm with you. And to your point, like, yeah, this game is going to be it does feel like this game is going to be a playoff-like environment. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of, gets him jacked up, gets him to be scrambling a little bit more. You know who I don't expect scrambling a ton, Ryan, coming off a nagging calf injury. And it's not even like priced in. And again, all these are also props Rhythm like. So it's not just my blind hatred for Christian McCaffrey and all things 49ers. Christian McCaffrey under 74.5 rushing yards. It's about him coming off this crazy amount of workload. He was limited in practice. What am I missing here? And I think this Jets defense, I think if the 49ers have success offensively, I think it's going to be, maybe middle of the field, that kind of stuff. I think Kittle could be interesting if you're looking for some overs for the 49ers, but they're going to be a little out of sync. Like Ayuk sat out way too long. Maybe Debo is good. Debo and Kittle, if you're looking for overs of the 49ers, those would be the ones I would be looking to play. But Christian McCaffrey under, lock it up, 74.5 rushing yards.
Class. That didn't feel like that felt like that came from your gut model more than anything.
It did, but Rhythm's data, completely soulless AI system that only cares about numbers. Rhythm doesn't have any grudge about the 49ers. That's all me. And Rhythm is also liking Christian McCaffrey under 74.5 rushing yards.
All right, last one for me. You know, I mentioned it earlier, but Ayuk, it does sound like he's going to be limited in how many plays they're going to have him out there for. And with the way that the offensive line might struggle, I think they're going to work a lot of quicker stuff. And so I kind of think George Kittle might have a game. I also think it's one of the better matchups they'll have on the field when you look at the Jets defense. And so I'm going to take the 3.5 over the 3.5 reception. He tends to have spike games. I'm going to see this as one of those spike games. Hopefully he didn't have a ton last year. This is not a number he went over a ton last year, but I think there's been some slight differences to the defense. And I think the way the Jets are going to play, or the offense, and I think the way the Jets are going to play him, Kittle might be the guy that they're that they will have an issue defending. So over 3.5 receptions for George Kittle. You might find shop around, because I know in some places it's juiced a little bit, -140, but there's still some -115s as well.
We still got an underdog entry we're going to build here in just a second, but before that, first touchdowns. I'm adjusting the model, right? I'm going to go, instead of doing 2 from each team, narrow it down here, just 1 from each team. Tyler Conklin is 22-1 for the Jets for the first touchdown. That to me seems pretty crazy. I understand Breece Hall should be the chalk. Garrett Wilson should be the chalk, but after that, like, we have no idea who Aaron Rodgers wants to throw to, who he's going to get involved with in the red zone. The fact that you can get the starting tight end at 22-1, and yeah, I tweeted out for the primetime game, Colby Parkinson anytime touchdown, and Brock Wright anytime touchdown. Brock Wright almost got first touchdown. I think you were on that, Ryan. He got down to the 1. Colby Parkinson was like 10-1 and had a bunch of targets, even a couple in the red zone. To me, I think some of these, honestly, quite honestly, I think it's tight ends that people aren't starting in fantasy aren't getting the respect that they should have in the anytime touchdown, first touchdown market. So Tyler Conklin, 22-1. On the 49ers side, Brock Purdy is a willing and able runner. So for him to scamper in at 35-1 is always fun for me. And I think he's going to run a little bit in this matchup. So Purdy 35-1, Conklin 22-1, my first touchdown plays.
All right. I don't hate it. I agree with your Conklin one cosign. I thought about getting cute with Ruckert or the backup tight end. If you remember, his dad did a JETS Jets when he got drafted from Ohio State. But it just seems like this would be the more useful way to play it, because Conklin's price, like you're saying, this is a nice price for a starting tight end. Thought about Lazard too, because Aaron likes his buddies. The other Jet I'm gonna play, and again, reminder, I play 4 first touchdowns. I take a unit, I chop it up 4 ways. The second one, Jets. Give me the defense and special teams, 30-1.
Let's go, baby.
We saw this offense look a little shaky, especially the offensive line. Best part of the defense for the Jets is Quinnen Williams right up the middle. Maybe we get some internal pressure, causes a mistake, causes a fumble, or maybe it's just Brock Purdy's running a bit more and he fumbles out there. I also agree with your Brock Purdy take. 35-1 is insane. Especially, again, we're expecting this offensive line to maybe be a little leaky, and so if a leaky offensive line with a quarterback price 35-1, just incorrect. We were worried they burned the market on us, but it does seem like some numbers have been corrected. They've given us some of the juice back in the first touchdown market. And the last one for me, I mentioned him in the catches prop, and I said he tends to have some spike games. I'm going to take George Kittle. I think he's the best matchup for their offense. And I think he's going to be one of the tools, one of the pieces they use off the play action. I also thought, again, something else rattling around my head was Juwan Johnson, because of what we know. Ayuk maybe not being out there a ton and liking playing third receivers, but Kittle 12-1, Purdy 35-1 seemed like the way to go. So Conklin 22-1, Jets defense, special teams 30-1, Kittle 12-1, and Purdy 35-1.
Let's get it. No lies saying Rodgers anytime touchdown 10-1. I don't know. No.
He ain't running the ball with that Achilles.
Yeah,
thing.
I think he's probably paranoid about his Achilles, and I think he's going to be a statue back in the pocket there, and maybe slide around there a little bit. But there are better 10-to-1s out there on the market. Ryan, before we go, little Underdog fantasy pick'em. What do you got cooking up here? What do you? I mean, for me, you can get the Brees Hall higher a half touchdown. That's a little spicy. We both like the Brock Purdy higher rushing yards. Although Underdog has it at 8.5, a little higher than some of the other spots. What do you like for an Underdog entry? Why don't we do like a 2-1? Give me your favorite one.
I got a 3. I got 3 legs that I think you're gonna like all of them.
Okay,
so
maybe
let's hear that.
Just toss them out.
Aaron Rodgers, lower 2.5 rushing yards. This
Yes.
include we get.
I
kneel
don't think
downs
he's gonna
here.
run.
And we get kneel downs here. We like them to maybe win the game. There's a lot of outcomes here. Under 2 or lower 2.5 rushing yards. Quinnen Williams to get a sack. We've been talking about this for the past 3 weeks about how that interior offensive line. So let's take Quinnen Williams higher than a half sack. And for the last one, to make it extra spicy, this is a 3 legs and it pays out 20.62x. Brock Purdy to have a fumble.
What?
Spicy.
Let's go.
So 100 will pay $2,000 or $2,000.
Ryan,
$62.
screenshot that and send it over to me and tweet it out over on our X at Gambling Podcast, and make sure everyone use our promo code SGPN, get the 100% deposit match up to $100. Football's back, baby. Thank you, everyone tuned into the podcast. Thank you, everyone who tells a friend about the Sports Gambling Podcast. Awesome experience about being out here in Las Vegas. I can tell the DGens only lifestyle is growing. Shout out to Marquis at the Venetian Sportsbook, Big Poppy Seed, bunch of guys we ran into at the Overhang Bar, Jed, Jake Paquin and the Troys, all his buddies as well. Like, it's just awesome. Ran into a bunch of listeners over the.
Can I do a shout out? Because this one's kind of fun. I drafted a FFPC team, as you know, Sean, and one of the teams on the table, they turned out to be fans. You won't believe the names if I told you. The guys' names were Cade, Rad, and Brad.
Cade, Rad, and Brad.
Love those guys. You guys fucking with me?
Yeah, and I'm sure. Apologies if I messed up a name or forgot it. Again, I've been intoxicated for 5 days straight. Wouldn't have it any other way. Hashtag DGens only. You guys are awesome. Shout out to Brad Martin and the Kansas City Queefs. He loves when I say that. So, hey, subscribe to the Sports Gambling Podcast. Tell a friend. Always appreciate the 5-star rating and reviews. Couldn't do it without you guys. For the Sports Gambling Podcast, I'm Sean, stacking the money green. He is Ryan.
Dan Jones is dead to me.
Kramer, let it ride.